Shabbat Shalom, Kahal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bahashim Kodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them and taught us his truth. And Shabbat Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the WW3 Daily update. Shabbat Shalom and salutations unto you as well. All right, so we're just going to start right here, Joel 3. So that you understand that World War III is God, when you call God, whose name is Yahweh, right, and his son Yahushua, have a battle plan, right? And the plan is to overthrow the world and the rulership on the face of the earth right now and set up a new rulership, a regime change, if you will. And God is the one that's doing it. Okay, he's going to install his son, Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, on the throne in the rulership of the world. Okay, and all countries, all nations will be basically in subjection to him. Okay, and his people, who are God's people, the nation of Israel. Who is his son? His son is an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. Okay, so the Israelites are next up to rule the world, basically. All right, now how is that going to happen? It's going to happen through war. When wars are waged, okay, then the victor becomes the new king, right? Now we're dealing with the King of Kings, right? Okay, so here's the Most High's plan and why he's doing it, okay? Right here in the first line, he's saying, I'm going to restore the nation of Israel to their prominence, back to their original seat on the face of the earth, which is the rulers of the planet, okay? The Lord judges the nation. For behold, this is Joel 3 and 1. For behold, in those days, that's talking about these days, and in that time, let's talk about now, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. See, we're in slavery right now. Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, we're still in our captivity, but he's going to, now that's come to an end, now he's going to turn it over. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. I will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, okay, or Yehoshaphat, God's judgment, all right, which is the battle of Armageddon, the last battle, okay. Now he tells you why, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay, let's take a closer look at that. Okay, let's look at it in the NLT. I will gather the armies of the world into the Middle East. That's what he's saying. Why? There will I judge them. Why? For harming my people, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, my special possession, for scattering my people among the nations, and for dividing up my land. Okay? Well, who did that? Who divided up his land? Well, who appointed the land into their into his let's see. You appointed his land into your possession. Did you not? Wow. I gotta get it now, don't I? Ezekiel 36 and 5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. Who? Idumean, which have appointed my land into their possession with all the joy of their heart. With despiteful minds they cast it out for a prey. What did they do? Okay. My jealous anger burns against these nations, especially Edom, because they have shown utter contempt for me by gleefully taking my land for themselves as plunder. Okay? Well, that's who. All right? Let's go back. Let's lock it. Bear with me. Joel, I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Josaphat. There will I judge them for harming my people, my special possession, for scattering my people among nations, and for dividing up my land. Who did that? The Edomites. You got Edomites and you got Ishmaelites down there fighting over the land of Israel right now, and it doesn't belong to either one of them. Okay, according to the scriptures now. All right? But this is why. So this, I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yehoshaphat. Why? To ambush them, to judge them. There will I put them on trial for what they did to my inheritance. There will I judge them, and I will enter into judgment with them there on behalf of my people. Okay? And will plead with them there for my people. Okay? And there I will deal with them. Right? Enter into judgment, and I will execute judgment. What does it mean to execute judgment? Well, that word execute pretty much says it all. Okay? Plead, bring charge. I will bring charges. And after the charges come the judgment. Plead your case. You're going to court there, bud. I will judge them. I will judge them. Set out my case against them. Who? All nations. It's called World War III. I will gather the armies of the world, all nations. Okay? This is what World War III is. Okay? Now we'll go back here. What is God doing? Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Let them walk right into the strike zone of my ambush. Okay? That's what we're watching right now. Okay, so I like this guy, Douglas McGregor. And this is a very, very good interview. All right, we're not going to watch all 33 minutes of it, but we're going to let him speak and give his opinion as to what is going on in Eastern Europe. Douglas McGregor, Russia is wiping them out. This is it. An exclusive interview. Red Pilled TV 21 hours ago. And if you read these comments, right, all the horror in the movie industry doesn't compare to the real evil in our governments. Wow. After listening to this interview, my hope for our country to survive what's coming our way financially or in war is becoming smaller and smaller. Seeing Biden's behavior at the start of a news conference on school children being gunned down is appalling. La, 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 la. It's time for America to stand up and take our country back from our corrupt politicians. This man is speaking some hardcore truth. God bless him for his. Colonel McGregor has probably the most intellectual approach on foreign policy than any other politician or office holder I can think of anywhere on this planet. He's pretty even keeled, I must say. This has been a well done interview, one of the best I've seen. Okay. Refreshing to hear a man speak common sense and break the narrative. I really wish we had more competent people like Douglas McGregor. I have the highest respect and admiration for him. He is really a true patriot, whatever that is. I learned so much in this 30 minutes, and no, I'm not just listening and going along with it blindly. It really lines up with a lot of other stuff I've been reading and watching, trying to get a grasp on the world today by looking at it from several directions. When you see everyone's FB profile all have a flag or banner all of a sudden, the major media is all saying how great or bad someone is, you better start digging. My teen son asked me months ago, whose side are we on, about the war in Ukraine? I told him I don't know yet, and it's very blurry what exactly the fighting is for. Then also I watched some of Putin's address speech and what he had to say about American citizens like me that have had very radical left-wing views, shoved down my throat, and watch what was left. Watch the left has their goons in the streets or the cities get away with, okay? Enough. It's a run-on, well-written run-on sentence. I'm impressed with his vast range of geopolitics and pointing out the absurdities of our government leaders and the broken news media. So let's watch this. We'll watch a little bit. He's going to give us the World War III Daily update. Douglas McGregor, take it away.
Hi, Colonel McGregor. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
That's good. So there's quite a lot going on, but with Ukraine, obviously, and Russia. But I want to start by saying I'm really glad to have you back because it seems like you've been right about everything, including Nord Stream, thanks to Cy Hirsch.
Well, I suppose that's true, although it's unfortunate. I wish I had been wrong.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I feel like I'm in bizarro world, and I actually purposely avoid some of the news on Ukraine on some days because I get so frustrated that none of what's happening actually reflects my worldview. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about was that I guess a week or so ago, the approved mantra about Ukraine was as long as it takes, and 88 million people connected to the Biden administration and elsewhere in the world were saying that phrase exactly the same way. Could you explain for me how you think that happens? I mean, it might be a silly question, but do they get a memo or something from their diplomat saying this is our position and you must say it this way? It was really weird.
Well, you have to look at the people who are in charge across the West, whether it's Washington or Berlin, Paris, London. All of these people are part of a class of political figures who have embraced this notion of globalism. And I would add to that the dangerous notion that they are somehow or another morally superior to everyone else and therefore have a right to demand that the rest of the world do as they say, to put it bluntly. This is not a new phenomenon for us. We've been through this sort of nonsense before. The easiest example I can come up with is, of course, Vietnam, where we embarked on what we insisted was this morally justified crusade to throw back.
If you are within
crusade to throw back the forces of communism. Of course, we today don't talk about that, but we had someone else named John F. Kennedy who told everyone we should be prepared to bear any burden, to go anywhere and fight anybody in the name of freedom and democracy for the whole world. Well, that leads directly to Lyndon Baines Johnson, who then subsequently tells us we have to fight the communists in South Vietnam or we'll be fighting them in Los Angeles. Of course, a little later on in Iraq and Afghanistan, we heard people say the same things. If we don't fight the Islamists here, we'll be fighting them in the United States. And now we're hearing something very similar, that if we do not fight the evil Russians, who are bent on conquering Europe, which of course is a lot of nonsense, then we'll eventually have to fight them in Poland and Germany and perhaps even here. This is the sort of thing that people that know nothing at all about what's happening will eagerly ingest and believe unless there is a counter narrative. And what's happened this time, in contrast to the Vietnam period, is there is no counter narrative. I mean, the media is universally controlled by the same people who control your governments, control the financial markets, and entertainment. They are all part of the same class, and they are committed to this sort of Trotskyite vision of the world where there's perpetual revolutionary war to advance their aims. The truth of the matter is, none of us share their aims. We're not interested in homogenizing the world and turning it into some sort of Sovietized entity. I mean, a lot of people talk about these leaders as fascists. I think that's very misleading. I think, in fact, you're talking about this Trotskyite mentality that says we're going to erase borders, we're going to destroy national identity, we're going to eliminate individual cultures, we're going to forcibly homogenize the world, create new people. The notion that people are fungible. And this is all bound up with a very strong atheist creed, that there is nothing beyond this world, and therefore what we do is ultimately irrelevant if we do it in the name of what we say is good and moral. And that's defined by these globalist views. That's the best way I can put it. But as long as you have a media that is 100% on board with these aims, how do you get it? How do you get an alternative view of the world? You've got to go search for it. You've got to go on to alternative media. People have to listen to people like you, Trish, and others in the United States who are unwilling to broadcast this sort of uninterrupted flow of lies and fiction.
That is really well said, because especially the point where you talked about this homogeneity that they're looking for, which, and maybe it's just because I'm a person of a certain age, right? I'm old. And I see various national identities slipping away in the face of this kind of monolithic globalism. And if you fight back against it, you're considered a far right populist racist, right? That is the script now. If you say, well, I would like to protect a little bit of this part of Canada or a little bit of this part of Germany or England, whatever, right? You're that's not allowed. It's actually a bad thing, and it frightens me because I feel that a world I knew so well is now slipping away, and I have no control over that at all, none.
Well, you recall that I was involved in the events that led ultimately to our intervention, first in Bosnia-Herzegovina, and then subsequently to the Kosovo Air Campaign. And I remember sitting across from members of the Clinton administration and their State Department and listening to people say, well, there's no difference between Croats and Serbs and Slovenes. That's all nonsense. Or Muslims. All these people are essentially the same. Their languages aren't that different. Their cultures aren't that. They're really all the same. And I looked at this person and I said, well, you're certainly free to think that. But the people that live here don't share your view. The Serbs actually think they matter. They actually think their way of life, their culture, their religion, their language matter. So do the Croats. So do the Muslims. And it was interesting during the Dayton talks that there were all of these efforts to try and persuade the United States that its forces and the forces of Great Britain and France should all join together to force all of these people that had just fought a very bloody civil war to reintegrate and live with each other. Can you imagine anything more bizarre? Well, Ambassador Holbrooke was in charge of the talks, and ultimately Holbrooke came to the right conclusion: that's an impossibility. Can't be done. And we don't want to fight another war for 20 years, forcing people to live with each other who don't want to. And so you came up with an imperfect solution, but one which essentially assigned the Croats, the Serbs, and the Bosniaks, or Muslim Bosniaks, their respective tribal homelands. And as a result, we did eventually get peace, and it's held up reasonably well. We never thought it would hold up for as long as it has, to be blunt. Then we went through the same sort of nonsense in Kosovo. We're going to force these Serbs, and they're going to eat this, and that's the way it has to be, and this is the new world. And they would talk about diversity, but Trish, it had nothing to do with diversity. I'm a big believer in diversity. I always loved Europe because Europe was so diverse. It was a fascinating place. It was endlessly interesting to me. These people are not about diversity. They're about homogenization.
Yeah.
And it's very destructive. It's not going to work. It won't work in Ukraine. It's not going to work with the Russians. Russia is an ethno-based state. It is primarily Russian in culture, language, largely.
Where's
Slovakia. I'm gonna let him talk for a little while longer. He's kind of just summing it up a long way. So
largely in ethnicity, though the Russians freely admit and celebrate the fact that they have people on their soil who are not Russians, who have long relationships with the Tsarist Russia, then subsequently under the Soviet leadership, and then today. So that's why you have thousands of people from Chechnya, other parts of the Caucasus, Tartars from places that we don't even know in the Urals and in Siberia, all of whom have flocked to fight shoulder to shoulder with the Russians for their common homeland. So this is a very dangerous thing that we're involved in because it hasn't worked. Hasn't worked anywhere. I don't think it will. But no one will stop. This narrative is deeply rooted in Washington, D.C.
now, basically, he's saying, okay, he just said that it's rooted in Washington, D.C., meaning this is America doing this. Okay, this is largely America doing what America does. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll cut it right here. I highly suggest that you go back and listen to the rest of this, okay? Because it's a very good listen, if you will. And it kind of puts things in perspective, right? As to the backstory of why the fighting is going on, right? And he's basically saying, look, you people are going to live together and do what the hell we tell you to do because we're nation building and we're forcing you into this, basically forcing you into a one world government and get used to it. And it's probably going to be the hardest to do right here, with you people. So let's get it started. That's been going on for years now. And here we are at the very end, right? With the wars, the rumors of wars, the earthquakes, the famines, the pestilences, and all of the signs pointing to what? Since I started, all right? See, because what's eventually going to happen is you got to understand who's doing this. God is doing this. He's the one gathering the armies of the world into the valley of Yahweh-Shaphat. Why? To put them down. Well, how is he going to put them down? How is he going to gather them into his ambush? Well, here's what he's doing. World War III has started. Everybody's going to join in, not knowing they're being led into an ambush. What's the ambush? Right here. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yahweh-Shaphat. That is in the Middle East. Eventually, everybody in World War III is going to be in the Middle East. Then what's going to happen? How is he going to judge them? How is he going to enter into judgment? How is he going to put them on trial? Well, he's going to destroy them. Okay, now we'll fast forward to that point. Okay, because they're all going to be there fighting each other. Then they're going to stop fighting each other. Then they're going to have to fight against two. The one that sat on the horse and his army. A different army other than all of these armies. You got all the armies of the world, right? Of this world. There's an army from a different world that's going to come into the fray. All right, let's get that. Let's go to Revelation 19. Okay. Now, here's the moment when all of the armies of the world are going to turn around and fight against the celestial army. And when I say celestial, I mean the angels, God's angels, which is his army, his son, which is the leader of that army. Okay? And that army can't be defeated. Okay? Revelation 19 and 19. And I saw the beast, NATO and the EU, and the kings of the earth, all of them, and their army, all the armies of the earth. See that? All of them. First they were fighting against each other. Now they're gathered together to do what? To make war against him that sat on the horse. Wait a minute. They were just warring with each other in World War III, found themselves in the valley of Jehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat in the Middle East, right? What happened? Well, they were gathered together. Now they're like, uh-oh, what is that? What's that horse? What's that white horse? Right? And the army of white horses, right? What are those? The rider on the white horse. Revelation 19:11. And I saw heaven opened. What does that mean? I saw heaven. I saw the sky open, and out of the fourth dimension into the third came a UFO. And behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. So when you called Jesus, he came out on his white horse, right? And in righteousness doth he judge. God said he's going to judge them, right? Well, he's going to judge and what? And make war. Okay? That's the one you call Jesus. His name is Yahushua. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. That is a metaphor for this. That's why suddenly these people are suddenly trying to tell you that, oh, well, there's a mothership and there's UFOs, and right? They've been lying about UFOs all these years. Here's the white horse. Okay? This is being described as a white horse, white and clean. Horsepower. Okay? You understand? They've been hiding this for going back years and making you believe that it's not true, that it's science fiction. You can make a movie called Independence Day and have a huge mothership, if you will, fathership, come out of the clouds, fight a whole battle that looks just like this, and then turn around and say, oh, but it's science fiction. No, we're reading it right here. Okay? And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. Who sat on the horse? His name is called the Word of God. Who is the Word of God? Who is God's Son? Who is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Okay? What does this say? Defeat of the beast and the false prophet. So all the armies of the world, right, are defeated. It's real simple. They got judged. They got turned into smoke, and the smell of dust and smell of smoke. Okay? So we'll end it right there. That's what World War III is about. It's about this. Okay? They'll fight each other until these come out of the fourth dimension and lay all of these flat. It's real simple. Okay? Go look at Independence Day and flip it upside down. Whoever won, lost. Whoever lost, won. All right? And Will Smith and Harry Connick ain't going to be popping open a goddamn cigar, smoking it because they won. They're going to be the smoke. All right? So with that, we hope that the elector edify you, brothers and few sisters. With that, we can say Shabbat Shalom.